So thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We are going to be talking about the growing skills gap within the world of increasing cyber threats. I'm sure this is a topic that many of you have heard about or thought about when you're developing your own career or your teams. So I'm looking forward to sharing some thoughts and ideas with you through today's session. I'm Kate. I'm on the business development team for Revelant for EMEA. We are also joined by Wendy and Julie, who I will let introduce themselves now.
Good morning, I'm Wendy Carstairs. I lead a partner technology team here at Microsoft in the UK, and as part of that, it's our cloud solutions architects for security.
Yeah, hi everyone, Julie McGourty. So I am one of those cloud solutions architects in the security team working with channel partners here at Microsoft.
Thank you, ladies. I just want to point out as well, part of the theme of today's session is about making sure that everybody feels welcome in the cybersecurity industry. So delighted to be joined by two leading ladies within the cybersecurity world, and I think they're setting a fantastic example for the future generations coming through, and they've got some really interesting ways of how we're going to open our minds to different hiring methods or different ways to upskill your own career. I said earlier as well, just for anybody that missed it, feel free to jump in with questions in the chat or the Q&A buttons that are there. We will answer your questions throughout, and we are happy for this to be as interactive as you would like. The session's being recorded and we can send out the slides afterwards, so don't feel like you need to scribble down lots of notes if that's something you want to do. I just want to highlight that skills crisis that we're talking about. First of all, I think Julie, Wendy and I see it every day in our work. Some of you might feel the same. Some of you might be new to the cybersecurity industry and wondering what on earth we're talking about. But we are seeing a huge demand in growth and demand for Microsoft products generally. So Microsoft have launched lots and lots of new tools within cybersecurity and across their whole platform. If you work within the tech space, you'll constantly be keeping up to date with the newest releases, the new programs that they come out with, lots and lots of changes all the time. And that in itself means that anybody within the industry is constantly trying to upskill and grow their own career. So that creates its own set of challenges of the upskilling journey that everybody is on. You're never done in the technology world with your learning, even at the point of Wendy and Julie have been in the industry for years. Talent is generally already very hard to find. So you can see some stats here around each of these, but I think every partner that you will ever speak to, every end customer organization will find it difficult to find technology talent. And that is multiplied, I think, within cybersecurity for many different reasons, but the fact remains that actually there just isn't the talent out there for us to go and all pick from. It's not like other industries where you advertise a job and you get lots and lots of applicants that are perfect, and it's a case of narrowing them down. I know that people in the recruitment industry that will spend days and days searching for these people because they just don't exist. So part of our mission, and also parts of Microsoft mission as well, is to try and see what we can do to support that ecosystem, to try and bring in some more talents. There's more for us all to choose from, and that's why we're really excited to encourage new people into the industry. There is a huge lack of diversity within the tech space overall. It's very unusual for you to dial onto a webinar led by three ladies, I think, especially within security. So we're hugely proud of that today. I've worked for organizations led by ladies within tech, so it's becoming more common, and I'm really pleased to see that. But generally, we don't have great representation of ladies of different backgrounds. We don't have a lot of BAME representation a lot of the time. We are looking at every different pillar of diversity and inclusion. So women in tech is quite a popular one, it's talked about, but let's not forget all the other areas of diversity that we can think about as an industry. We are really lacking in that space sometimes. Microsoft has been fantastic at trying to solve this skills crisis. They have launched a number of initiatives, especially over the last sort of 12, 18 months to tackle this. Revelant are a huge part of that, and we're super proud to be doing it. So we all have a responsibility within the tech ecosystem, whether you're on this webinar talking specifically about Microsoft security. And I daren't say it, Wendy and Julie, close your ears, but even if you're talking about AWS and Google and whatever other tools you use, we all have a shared responsibility to try and encourage more talent and be open-minded in our approach to try and solve this skills crisis. Specifically within security, as I touched on before, we have a huge problem. So we think there's about 3.5 million cybersecurity jobs expected over the next couple of years. Now, security for Microsoft makes up, we think, about 8.7% of those jobs. It's still a huge, huge number that we need to try and tackle. 1 in 3 roles are going unfilled, and the cybersecurity diversity stats are, quite frankly, shocking. So I think, again, if we can all work together to try and tackle how we do this by encouraging security talent into the ecosystem, whether it be via the initiatives that we're working really closely with Microsoft on at the moment to introduce talent that's never done technology before or that's never done cybersecurity before, or whether it be through another method within your organization, then we all need to work together as part of this joint goal to create diverse new cybersecurity talent and address this shortage that we're all facing. So we're hoping to give you some tips today on how you can actually do that, rather than just tell you that we're all a bit stuck here and there's no one out there. We want to be able to give you some tools to go back to your businesses with, or if you're somebody looking to come into the industry, how do you do that and where do you start? I think our first tip, if you like, is that it's really important as a hiring organization or as somebody looking to come into the industry to align your learning. So to give you an example, these are the 5 areas that Microsoft call their sales plays. So these are the 5 areas that partners will focus on when they're going out to market to talk about cybersecurity. And these give us a really easy way of thinking, right, how do I consolidate my learning, make sure that I'm choosing an area within cybersecurity rather than trying to focus on something that's so broad that actually it's not useful. So I could go and Google cybersecurity and read for months and years and not be any further forward because it's so broad. So have a little look into specific areas that you can learn about and focus on that one particular area. Same for any technology or anything that you're learning, just take it one step at a time. And I think that is the same for the products, the modules within those products, everything. Try and really understand those and align your learning to a specific theme or an end goal that you've got. Otherwise, I think we'll all be bombarded, and that's whether you're at the beginning of your career or further down the management route. Again, as a manager, when you're setting those personal development plans, think about how you can also help your employees to align their learning. We've all got new Microsoft designations to work towards. That skills is a huge, huge part of that points wise. So you'll be scrabbling probably to try and get certain certifications within your teams. Think about how can you make that applicable to the people within your team and align that learning to each one of them so that what they're doing actually applies to their job as well in the best possible way. Wendy obviously has brilliant experience at all of this, managing her team, talking to partners on a daily basis about all of this. So I'd love her to share some insights on how we can actually do that in practice. And we've just given you some examples here of within those 5 sales plays, how you might want to break that down to as a starting point.
Brilliant, thanks, Kate. And I think it's really nice to show this learning pathway, because the really great thing about getting into cybersecurity now is that these learning pathways are all there. So whether you're new to technology or you're new to or you're already in tech and you're looking to move into cybersecurity, there's absolutely a learning pathway available to get you the practical skills that you need. So if you think about if you're new to this and you're looking for skills in cybersecurity, or you're looking to move into tech from a completely different area, then you can follow these pathways and engage with skilling partners such as Revelant, or you can use the freely available content on MS Learn to get started. So pick one and then start to work through it. And as a hiring manager, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of candidates and placed many into technical roles. And one of the things that we have to do as hiring managers, because there is such scarcity of talent, is that we have to go out and pipeline talent. So there can often be quite a long gap between an initial conversation with a hiring manager and actually the interview process. And partly when you're working into any sort of tech organization, that process can just take quite a while. So if you've been approached, or if you're thinking about roles, you can start that learning pathway and a certification pathway at that starting point. Because as a manager who's interviewing people, if I'm talking to somebody who has either got some certifications or they've put themselves on the track towards them, that's a huge tick for me, over and above what actually having the background and skills will be. And the reason for that is that this whole industry is moving so fast all the time. You're never going to get somebody with the exact skills at exactly the right time. So the right people for these roles are always people that love learning, are able to go and learn, and are self-motivated about their learning. So if you've got some evidence to show that, hey, I love learning and I've gone and put myself through these pathways, or at least I'm starting on them, that as a hiring manager is much more powerful and would swing the decision your way, rather than somebody maybe with 10 years of cybersecurity experience. Not that there's many of them around. So definitely have a look at the pathways and do that. The other thing I want to kind of align is that really believing that you can. And Kate was brilliant in outlining that talent can come from all areas, and talent's going to have to come from all areas. So believe in your transferable skills. When we're hiring people in, technical skills is an important piece, but it is not the only important piece, because we can fill those gaps once you're in with pathways such as this. But what we can't fill is maybe your ability to interact with and build relationships with people. Maybe you've got some consulting skills. Perhaps you've done event organisation in the past. Maybe you've been a project manager. Perhaps you've done training and learning and development. Maybe you've got knowledge of different industries which are really relevant, maybe healthcare or manufacturing. All those are hugely beneficial transferable skills that we can then help you plug those technical skills gaps with, because we've got this content. What we don't have is the experience that you will have had already from interacting with customers or doing complex projects. So really believe in yourself. That's kind of one of the points I wanted to make. And then if you are a manager and you're looking to bring skills in, you can use these pathways to upskill once people are in. My experience is anybody takes at least 6 months to really get to where they need to be. So whatever you're going to do, people are going to need to upskill, whether it's new to the organization, new to the industry, new to the technology. So you can bring people in with the right experience in other areas, and then use the learning paths and certification paths and programs to actually upskill from a technical point of view once they're in. And I've certainly seen that we've been able to build diverse teams from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of areas, and gender, by adding the technical skills once people are in. So that's absolutely fine. And my top 3 findings as a manager are: really know where you want to get to, like have the numbers that you want to get to from different types of talent, because then you've got something to aspire to, and be really open-minded about potential. So if you're a candidate, put your potential out there, and if you're a hiring manager, people have potential in all sorts of areas, but that willingness and ability to learn is probably the most important. Don't overvalue the specific technical skills. The technical skills such as these, yes, they're important, but we can add these later. So it's not the only part that we're interviewing for when we're looking to fill skills. Any thoughts on that, Kate?
No, Wendy, I think you've highlighted that perfectly. And the amount of times that I've spoken to organisations considering working on our programme, or that I've met at networking events, that say the best people within our teams are those that have a passion for the technology. I don't mind where they've come from. I don't mind the walk of life that they've been on so far, or the route into technology that they have taken or are taking. It's all about that personality, that drive, that passion for the technology. I don't think there's a single manager or C-level person that I've spoken to that has not said that on during a conversation. So I think that highlights that perfectly, that everyone is welcome in tech. We're actually asking you to get involved. So please don't think, I'm not good enough for that, because we're asking you and telling you that you are. So that's really great insight. Thank you very much, Wendy. I think it would be great actually to see firsthand how that has happened in the past for our lovely Julie. So Julie didn't have the most sort of normal transition, if that's a word anymore, into the tech industry. And she's going to share with us exactly what her journey was and how she's got to where she is today.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. So yeah, delighted to. And yeah, I think I'd also just follow on from what Wendy said, that I think it's really good that people can come from literally any background into this industry. I mean, you can see here from a little bit about me, you know, I do have a degree in business and information management, which was essentially business and computer studies. So all of that was kind of relevant, but the reason I even chose that degree was when I was going to university, I had no idea what I wanted to do and thought, okay, I'll choose something that's going to get me a job in something, whether it's, you know, business related, management, you know, legal side or IT. And then once I was going through the 4 years of that degree, I really enjoyed the IT side, probably to my own surprise, because it's not something that would have appealed to me at school. So again, probably an example of just, you know, try things out and you'll see what you like. But I have to say that most of the IT, if not all of it, I did at university was programming, which I have not used since. So that again just shows that, you know, even if you do study something tech related, it could end up being not what you do anyway, because the tech industry is so broad. So when I graduated, I just applied to lots of graduate training schemes for IT of all disciplines, wasn't really looking at anything in particular. Was fortunate enough to get a traineeship with an insurance company in Edinburgh, who provided, you know, lots of training, you know, similar to what you're doing with Revelant, taking people with kind of zero prior knowledge, training you up and letting you learn on the job at the same time. So I would definitely say any sort of way in like that, whether it's apprenticeships or the sort of tech boot camps, is an amazing way to get started, because I think without that, you know, I wouldn't have felt the kind of confidence to work in IT that then let me move on in my career. So you can see from there, I then went to work for a startup, which was fun, because in a startup you end up doing a bit of everything. So, you know, even though you might be recruited to be one particular IT specialist, I can guarantee you get involved in literally everything. So that can be a fun way, again, to try different parts of the industry out. And then I've always had a passion for travel. So I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to spend some time in Australia working for Accenture, which was a whole different experience in lots of different ways. And again, for anyone out there that likes to travel, IT is probably the best career for that, because tech is the same no matter which country in the world you're at. Certifications are recognized globally, so it's not like some other industries where you need to recertify in country. So again, a great opportunity if you like to travel and see the world a little bit. And then after that, I spent a long time at Cisco, another big tech vendor, where I had various different roles, including being able to work for a couple of years at headquarters in California. So again, that was another great life experience, as well as seeing a different side of the tech industry, because I was actually a product management in the engineering division. So again, getting to see how we take products from an idea through to building something through to market was a great experience. And then I was ready for a change, because as Wendy and Kate have said, this industry never stops and it's important to refresh your skills. So I thought, okay, where's doing cybersecurity that I might want to get involved in? And Microsoft appeared as kind of top of that list, because in the last probably 4 or 5 years, they've had a really big focus on cyber and massively expanded the portfolio and what we do in that. So I saw that as a great new challenge. And again, another big tech company where there's opportunities to move around as well once you're in. But outside of work, it's not all about tech for me. I love to do lots of different things. And my current favourite is baking, and definitely boring all my friends on social media with my latest cake decorations. So So there's something that for everyone that you can bring to the tech industry is my message. And just to echo what Kate and Wendy said, any background is welcome. You know, I've worked with people who've come from all sorts of different industries and different areas of study into tech. That's me.
Thank you, Julie. And we will never get bored of your baking. If you want to bring in meetings, feel free, please. I think you also touched on a really interesting point about the travel within tech. And, you know, it's a great opportunity for anybody that wants to see the world to be able to jet off and do what you would like to do. And actually, it's also a great opportunity if you want to do the opposite. So I'm a working mum. I've got 3 children. And for me, traveling is a bit difficult because the logistics are a bit of a nightmare. So actually I work all the time from home, can dial into other people in meetings anywhere around the world and have the opposite of that. So I think as Wendy and Julie and I have discussed previously, it's a really good career for anyone in any circumstance. It might just be that you need to talk to the organization you're going to work for about their policies and their work culture. So certain organizations will still say we typically travel sort of 3 days a week to client site. It could be anywhere in Europe. That's super appealing for some people. Other partners that we speak to say, no, we do everything remotely now, especially after COVID. So you're not actually expected to go anywhere. There's partners that have initiatives about planting trees for every day that's worked from home. So they really encourage that sort of culture. So, you know, it's for everyone. You can hand pick almost the sort of culture that you want to be a part of, right from the startup, like Julie mentioned, to the biggest of our partners in the ecosystem, like the Accentures of the world. So it's a huge opportunity for everyone. And I think Julie personifies that really nicely. So thank you for that, Julie. I'm sure plenty of us still are fascinated by the world of cyber and exactly what goes on. So it'd be great to hear from you both actually on what you actually do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so I'll start with some of these because I think it is probably, again, one of the best industries for variety. Literally every day can be very different. And like you said, Kate, some people work from home full time. Some people, you know, do more travel. At Microsoft, most roles tend to have a bit of a hybrid. Some days we're working from home. Other days we might be in the office doing some sort of collaboration with our own team or other teams in Microsoft. But a lot of the time we're out seeing our partners and customers as well, which for me is part of the job that I've always enjoyed working in this industry, being customer or partner facing, because you get to travel to meetings and those customers' environments, which can be fun as well. And I put some of those ones in there about I used to work on a lot of the transportation industry clients, and you know, I've had some really cool days wandering around, you know, the back corridors of Heathrow Airport and seeing, you know, what goes on and how technology can make a massive difference in those sorts of environments as well. You know, so I think when you think about tech, it's not just about sitting at a screen and doing coding or development, although of course those roles are there if that's what you'd like to do. There's lots of variety and lots of kind of people interaction as well, but you know, something for everyone indeed. And I think just learning about different customers' environments to me is fascinating, you know, just about how they work, what they do, because every company you've ever heard of, you know, really uses Microsoft tech. So we get an amazing exposure to what's going on in all sorts of different sectors and different industries as well. And I was just talking to a colleague earlier about some of the work that we're doing with customers like the NHS and the police who are using technology really in, you know, a kind of protecting the world and serving people where it's most important type of way as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about my take on it, but I'll hand over to Wendy, who's got the very cool stories about going to some interesting places on the last bullet point there.
Actually, it certainly is fun, isn't it, Julie? We do get to do a massive variety of different things, and they suit different people as well. Some people in the team will be much more, you know, wanting to look into the technology and get that working and create demonstrations, and you know, certainly spent time in the past creating demos and showing people how some of the tools and capabilities work, and that's kind of fun. And the thing I like about that is that when you see that spark with a customer or somebody who's got a problem and you say, well, we've got some technology here, how do we work together to see how that's going to solve your problem? And you come up with this idea together, and it's this kind of spark of a creative idea that then you go on to work with and bring different people in, and it gets really collaborative, and then it goes into delivery and deployment, and you kind of see that whole piece happening. I think one of the biggest, most fun, well, most memorable pieces I did around that was I worked for an organisation that was involved in the London 2012 Olympics, and quite some time ago now. But right in the early days, they weren't really sure whether they wanted Wi-Fi everywhere. And we were like, we really think that you should have Wi-Fi everywhere, and these are the reasons. And it was still when Wi-Fi was a bit like, oh, is it secure? So we went through the whole piece of it. Can be made secure, it can be made available. And of course, by the time London 2012 came along, it was an absolute no-brainer. If they hadn't had Wi-Fi across the whole Olympic Park, people would have been really questioning why. So being involved in that kind of early conversation, and then being involved in seeing how it was going to go out there and being really close to 2012 was just really memorable. Part of that did get me to go and talk to Buckingham Palace about they wanted Wi-Fi and how we could secure that. Downing Street as well, they wanted Wi-Fi and how they could secure that. So kind of being in these early conversations was fun. And actually some of it is just drinking coffee and getting to know people. It's very relationship centric, whatever you're doing, because there's always ideas and new things to kind of understand and get across to people. Part of that is organising team days and just having get together days out. And I think some of the days I really love is when we get like-minded people together, whether that's from customers, whether that's from our partners, whether that's from across the industry, and you kind of get that real buzz about, like, we're talking about things that are challenges and issues, and we're talking about different technology options, and we always create something in those moments that then we go on to work together with. So there's lots of sharing ideas, there's lots of bringing customers together, and there's lots of working at the desk as well, and we choose how we work. So there's loads of different things, loads of different pathways.
Yeah, I think we all see a snippet of cyber on the news when, the NHS gets attacked, or little bits of it, and it piques our interest. And then actually we forget that all of this stuff goes on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just all of there's been a huge incident, what can we do about it? There's a lot of proactive work that goes on in the background to prevent all of these things. That's why cyber is needed every day, not just when somebody's actually managed to make one of those attacks. So I mean, Julie and I have had a lovely day recently in the Edinburgh office, drinking coffee and catching up and networking and planning. And, it is a lot of that. And I think if anybody wants a taste of that, if they've not already done it, go to one of the conferences or networking events, look on meetup.com and you'll find events in your area. Reach out to one of us. We'll tell you what's coming up that we think might be really interesting. I know you've got Scottish Summit, South Coast Summit, lots of different networking events that have got hundreds, if not thousands of people there. And you'll go and find that everybody is more than happy to chat all day about their career and about tech. It's a great way of meeting new people as well that you might then work with in the future. So well worth doing. And I think, it's never a dull day in the tech world. Wendy, we've heard a little bit about what you do within your role so far, but it'd be great to hear a little bit more about your take on the cyber world from your own experiences so far.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. And I think it's probably worth reflecting, like, how did I end up to be here? And I never set out to go and be a security professional, but here I am. I'm a security professional. So I guess I always followed my heart of, like, what I found really interesting. And one of those things when I was early in the computing days, and that's why I brought my little friend Clippy along here, because Clippy from Office 95 I was well established in installing PCs and delivering Windows and Office into companies at that time. So kind of, getting things working for people. And I didn't really, security wasn't really taken that seriously back then. It was like, yes, okay, you should probably have a password. And things weren't connected, and people didn't have internet connections all over the place back then. And I started to see that evolve, and then networking came along, and I just was so interested in networking, and then Wi-Fi. And of course, nobody believed, did they, that we had to go and convince people that Wi-Fi was great to use, and that it was safe, and that it was secure. And so my path into security really started with networking and Wi-Fi, because we had to really go and understand how it could be made secure, and then demonstrate how it's secure. And actually in the early days it wasn't very secure at all. And of course it is now. So it was just really rewarding for me to kind of work through that pathway and end up where I am now in cybersecurity. And it's kind of worked for me in different ways as I've gone through my career, because in the early days I loved to do the traveling and I wanted to get out. And then as I had grew up and I had my children, some of that travel does get harder. So now I have this just fantastic balance where it's such a flexible industry and a flexible role, because so much of it can be done remotely and so much of it can be done in person. And so actually I get a great balance and a great blend of both. So as a single parent with 2 young children, I can be at home for the school runs and I can be at home for when they need me. And I was just remembering the other day, literally just recently, because we are helping our partners and our customers really protect themselves from current and real threats. This whole piece, there's some particular cyber attacks were happening, and I was on calls about that to understand what's really happening and what we needed to do to create a plan to go and help our partners and customers. Really, in the moment, we had all this research released, and then it was happening for real. So we were being responsive in the moment, and at the same time, I'm in the kitchen cooking dinner for the kids and getting them ready for brownies and getting ready to go off to the various clubs. And that was okay, that works for me. It's absolutely fine. I don't do that every day, but it works for me, and that's the choice. So there are so many ways we can work nowadays that it's just a really great flexible way to work. And then of course it's always moving, isn't it? There's always something new. There's always a new piece coming along. And just looking at what's happened over the past 12 months with the cyber war changes, it's really made it very real, very fast for a lot of people and a lot of organizations. And we've been really heavily involved in how to make that technology available to everybody as well, in order to protect everybody from cyber warfare. And then we've seen this kind of real monetization of cybercrime. So cybercrime is big business now. It's not, it didn't, it used to be kind of a bit scary, but it wasn't real enough. But now it's really real. People do get held to ransom. People do lose money. And so we're able to be really, really involved in how to help prevent that and how to recover from that, and then how to move forward from that. So we're kind of really in it. And then the people I see coming through into our team now, I just know that anybody can start at any career stage. We've had people coming in that are straight out of university, people coming in from straight out of apprenticeships, people coming in who are women returners who've had a family and come in with some transferable skills, people coming in from different vendor backgrounds, people coming in from Microsoft backgrounds and reskilling into cybersecurity. So it is definitely something anybody can start at any career stage, and anybody can pick up, because it's moving so quickly. We've all got to pick it up on the fly, right?
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. And that's a really good point, actually, about the sort of serious side of what you both do on a day-to-day basis. I remember last year at Microsoft Envision hearing all about how Microsoft had been instrumental in helping Ukraine to strengthen their infrastructure and look at security. So we're not just talking about, protecting a little virus on computers within an organization. Microsoft are working on some of the most important projects around the world. They're also working on some of the most exciting. I know if anyone's an F1 fan like I am, you'll see the Microsoft logo on all the Alpine team tops. They work really closely with them as well. I think on Dynamics, as far as I'm aware, but I'm sure that's branched out over the last year into all sorts of different areas. So there is lots of exciting projects going around that are well known. There's case studies that you can actually go and look at on the Microsoft website to look at the customers. But there's a lot of serious life-changing projects going on as well that some of us maybe might not be aware of. And the fact that we've all got the chance to be involved in those, I think, is a really unique and exciting opportunity. So please do. We said at the beginning we wanted to make sure that although we started with the scale of the issue that we're facing, we wanted to give you some takeaway points as to what we can actually all do about it. So I think if you're looking at this from a manager perspective, or you're part of a team that is struggling to tackle these different problems, look at how you can increase your talent pools in your business. And we actually want to encourage every single one of these. I know HR will talk about healthy source mix of talent. Well, that used to be from a couple of different pools, perhaps, of direct hires, or some from agency, or some from adverts. And that was kind of what we classed as the healthy source mix. Things have really moved on now. We want every organization to be looking at how you can help with apprenticeship and graduate programs for those people just coming out of education. We want you to look at the return to work schemes for those mums, dad, parents, carers, whoever it might be, that have taken a bit of a career break and are ready to come back. I know that in the Relevant programme, we've had people who have worked previously and have had to take some time out for illness or to look after a loved one, or to be that parent figure, and are now doing extremely well in the industry. So we know that that works. Obviously, a lot of what we do is it's not actually entry level. Everyone that comes into the Relevant programme has got prior experience, as Wendy said earlier, of a certain industry or a certain technology that's transferable. Perhaps they've worked on within event planning, customer success. I know we've had people that have refereed at FA Cup finals and have done some really interesting and bizarre things in their past, and currently are still doing them, and they're doing exceptionally well. So try and look at all of these different programs and see how you could integrate them in your business. There's the digital skills bootcamps, for example, as well. They're churning out some fantastic people. So try and be a little bit more open-minded. If your organization is doing the typical, they've got a brilliant TA team, they're going out to the same routes, talk to them about what else you could be doing to try and diversify your workforce and look at different streams to encourage more people into the ecosystem. And you will also find that as a result of that, you will get diverse people and diverse thoughts and diverse outcomes, which will attract more customers within the business. So the different thoughts and backgrounds are actually really important for driving your business forward as a whole, not just for the short-term skills crisis as well. I'm sure that Wendy and Julie have both got some tips that they'd like to share with us as well.
Well, definitely, if we talk about ways to increase your talent pools, going and looking and asking has been hard work but effective for us. And when we talk to people about, well, why wouldn't you consider career in cyber, some of the genuine responses I've had was that, well, I don't really want to sit just on my own behind a computer all day, or will I have to wear overalls, or will I have to carry a spanner? So, those are genuine responses that have come when we've said, well, why wouldn't you want to do cyber engineering? And because it's got the title engineering in it, if it's got cybersecurity, picturing that I have to just be sat behind a desk all day by myself. So just having those conversations and breaking down those thought processes, and going to different places where people might be considering what to do next, and giving them the confidence that you can come and do something different next, that it is actually accessible. What about you, Julie? Where else have you seen talent coming in from?
Yeah, so I think, that is the kind of good thing about the industry, because I think those of us that are already working it, have seen people come in from all sorts of different places. So we have a colleague in our team who used to be a lawyer until a few years ago, and then retrained himself in IT and is now working at Microsoft. I think that's a great story. I was just saying to Kate and Wendy earlier that a very close friend of mine used to be an actress and on the stage, and then decided she wanted something that was a bit more of a stable, predictable career, and did a kind of 6-week boot camp in IT networking, and then got herself certified and has been working consistently in IT for about 17 years now and doing incredibly well. So there's just a couple of examples of people that we know. At the same time, in my previous company, there was a guy who used to be a doctor, a medical doctor, again, just really got interested in technology, decided to change careers. So there is literally something for everyone. And I think now that we have a lot of different routes in to get you started, like apprenticeships and things like Relevant for people who want to make a bit of a shift, I think there's now more opportunities than there probably were when Wendy and I started out in our careers to get into, you know, any area of IT, you know, and if you want to get into cyber, like we said, there's lots of different ways. And Kate and I were chatting about there's even sort of a lot of legal and compliance skills that are transferable into some of the parts of our technology industry as well. So, you know, skills that you might think are not relevant in cyber often very much are relevant. And that's the good thing about it, because there is something for everyone.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that's a really good point as well. If you're working with somebody that used to be a medical doctor, then you're going into the NHS to talk about their own IT, having somebody with that level of knowledge about the actual job, their understanding of tech at that point is a real game changer. And that person is the most valuable asset that Microsoft could have on that one day. So I think just having, you know, understanding that value. And as well, you know, that's a lot about the sort of coming into the industry, but people already here and looking to advance their career. Wendy touched on a really good point the other day and said, you know, it's actually okay not to know everything. Nobody knows everything about every little detail. And I think sometimes as human beings, we're really self-critical. And we want to know exactly what's going on all the time. We want to be up to date with the latest tech, when actually we don't really need to be able to do that all the time, because we've got colleagues that might be a specialist in one area and we're a specialist in another. And actually part of what's great about working in tech is that collaborative approach where we all lean on each other. There's never been a statement of work or a project plan put together that's done by one individual person. In my experience, everybody comes together to add little bits and bring their own opinions and experience on board. So we don't need to be perfect. We just need to continue to upskill the best we can, take advice off those around us, and I think just submerge ourselves in the right part of the tech to get to where we want to be as part of our own personal development plans.
I think that's such a valid point, Kate, as well, because we pretty much all feel that we don't know enough most of the time. And so kind of getting over that need to be finished, or the need to know everything, or the need to actually, you know, I'm ready to do this now. We're never ready to do everything because it's all moving so quickly all the time. And that's definitely a lot of the concerns that I hear from people thinking about, is it the right time to move into a career in cyber, or is it the right time to consider applying for a role? We never feel like we know enough. And actually any role you go into, you're never going to know it all because it's new. And then as you're doing it, you're never going to know it all because it's moving and changing all the time. So there's really something about kind of letting go of that need to, or that think we need to know everything and be expert or finished in some way. We just never are. And it's actually quite nice when you let go of that, thinking, okay, I know enough for now, and I'll keep learning. And it's always going to be it's going to be a learning process for the whole career. So we're always in that getting comfortable with that feeling is kind of okay.
Yeah, I've never known an end customer on a, you know, a discovery call for a project, or when you're talking about technology, that says anything negative if a consultant or a developer says to them, oh, I don't know that actually, I'll go away and check and I'll let you know. Not once have I ever heard that customer say, oh, well, you're useless.
No.
And I think that's in our head what we're expecting the response to be, but it absolutely isn't. They're asking you because they trust that you're the one to give them advice. So I think there's a lot in that. And actually, if we could all find ways to keep each other up to speed, that would be really helpful. I know sometimes I don't have as much time these days to look at the latest product releases and what's going on. I knew lots about Viva 6 months ago, and now I know absolutely nothing about the latest releases, and that's okay. But actually, I know when I go to the next networking event, there'll be loads of talks on it. So I'll just go to them and I'll be up to date again. So actually, what can you do to find easy ways to take that pressure off yourself? And, you know, whether it be networking groups within your own organization, whether it be that you're going to go to external events, you're going to listen to an audio book in the car on the way to, you know, kids swimming or while they're in there, whatever it might be, find easy ways and share those easy ways with those around you. I think that's a really key thing to us solving the skills gap as well, longer term, not just the new people coming in, but those of us that are already in the industry that need to keep looking at our own skills and knowledge as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just making that time for learning. And I love this kind of sharing the important and relevant information at the right time. And one of the biggest things that maybe people miss is that part of the important part of the work that we do is about asking the right questions and being really curious, and being the consultant or asking the right questions up front. To ask questions, you need to have no information. You don't need to know anything to ask questions, and build up that. Well, what is the problem here? What is the challenge? What's going on? So that's a lovely thing to remember, that the biggest part of the job is asking the right questions and then going away and understanding, well, what is it that we want to build together to take to that, solve that. And so there's always a team of various people around with different expertise that you then build. Well, what is the thing that we're going to take back to solve this problem, whether it's reactive and it's, solving something really quickly, or whether it's solving something kind of like more challenging and longer term. There's a team of experts who will be building that thing together. The upfront piece is asking the questions.
Absolutely. Speaking of questions, we've got one actually in the chat. What are some of the most valuable soft skills or transferable skills for working in cybersecurity?
Got some thoughts. What are your thoughts, Julie, from what you've transferred over?
Yeah, I think probably like Wendy said, that sort of being curious, asking the questions, just keeping an open mind, and, sort of getting your information from different sources, maybe online free events. There's lots of them if you scour LinkedIn. Going to some of the free kind of industry conferences that are more and more frequent. I was just talking to a colleague earlier who said there's probably a cyber event every day of the year if you really want to go to one, and that is true actually. So I think being curious, and I think being flexible and adaptable in your approach to your work as well, because as Wendy said, none of us in this industry will ever know it all. It's just impossible. So just being flexible. If you don't know something, don't feel bad about it. Everyone around you is the same. Just take ownership and go and find out and come back to your customers. So I think adaptable, flexible, willing to learn, and just being a collaborative person that wants to work with other teams, because as Wendy said, we'll always have to reach out to a colleague or another team to solve a problem, because nobody can have all the knowledge in their own head in this environment. My tips.
And that all, a lot of that lends to, I guess, what I'd call EQ, or emotional intelligence. So being really self-aware, being able to build working relationships with people, even when things are difficult. And you think about in a kind of quite a stressful, challenging, reactive environment where you're responding to cyber threat, that's a really challenging environment. So being very high in emotional intelligence and being able to work in a balanced way and build relationships and have strong working relationships with people where you've got to collaborate, whether they're customers or colleagues or partners, is actually one of the most important things that we interview for, because it's very hard to teach that and grow that. And people coming maybe back into work will tend to carry a lot of that already, whereas perhaps someone early in career might need to develop some of that. So probably the most important soft skill is really great emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and then that lends to collaboration and resilience. And then along with that, of course, love of learning, ability to learn in whatever your learning style is, whether it's reading or watching videos or doing or learning from others, whatever your learning style is, and we all have different learning styles. There is the material now to support that learning style, whether that's through learning pathways, boot camps, LinkedIn learning. So the ability and the proven track record of learning, and then being able to apply that learning, that's the thing that I tend to ask around.
I think they're really good points, and I hope that answers the question. I love the curiosity point. Is something that comes up quite a lot. Every manager that we speak to always says, don't mind about the experience, but we want them to have that drive and that passion and that willingness to just get stuck in. And I suppose that comes back to Wendy's point about, we don't always know the answer, but having that inner confidence of actually, I'll just go away and find out, is super important. And again, I think that is linked to the emotional intelligence of, I'm aware that I don't know it, but it doesn't matter and I'll go and find it. So yeah, there's lots and lots of tips and tricks I'm sure that Julie and Wendy can share with us all. if anybody's got any last minute questions, feel free to pop them in the chat.